Hello everyone and welcome to the 3.0 Virulence. I'll never get used to saying that. It's Virulence. It is Virulence Sniper overview. Let's just call it Lethality and be done with it. Yeah, this is the 3.0 Lethality overview. We're not calling it Virulence. To hell with that. So take a look at the old sniper, the old dot spec. Doing quite well actually, does quite well on certain fights not so good, so always handy to dual spec. Actually, we'll dismiss Kalios because she gets in the way. Right, so let's discuss our talents, or not talents, utilities, that's it. Jeez, I'm off tonight, aren't we? The first one we're going to want to take is Ballistic Dampers. Entering cover grants 3 charges of Ballistic Dampers. Each absorbs 30% of the damage dealt by incoming attacks. Again, very useful. A lot of people ask, should I be in cover? Should I not be in cover? Because all of your abilities for this can be used out of cover. My advice would be in cover. Wherever possible, be in cover, because you get those Ballistic Dampers absorbing damage, and bear in mind that you do get 25% chance to dodge things. You do get that 25% dodge chance to avoid incoming attacks. Pretty nice. Melee range dodge is 25. Melee is only 5%. Most of the time you'll be taking it's mostly kinetic damage that you tend to take, and sometimes the odd energy damage. I think kinetic and energy are about the same, but yeah, it just gives you that chance to dodge, gives you that. Oh yeah, we still get it when we're out of cover because we took the other perk. Cover screen, wait till cover screen goes away. See, we have 5% defense chance, you get 25% defense chance, so you know, it's always worth being in cover where possible. The next skill we take is if we have to leave cover. So when exiting cover, we gain 20% range defense. So essentially, we still got the range defense that we had in cover for 6 seconds after leaving cover. Again, it's a nice bit of damage reduction for us. The rest, these two are just PvP ones. Vital regulators, we don't want. Don't want it. While in cover, we heal 1% of our total health every 3 seconds. It is a waste of time. Compared to these two, Ballistic Dampers and Cover Screen, this is the worst of the three. 1% of your health every 3 seconds is not going to make a difference. It is not going to save you. That's the big thing. It's just not going to save you. A healer should be able to heal more than 1% of your health every 3 seconds. Any healer should be able to do that. Reducing your damage is much better than having that heal, because again, bear in mind we can't stay in cover for very long. We can't stand still on most of these fights. The other one is Snapshot. Maybe you want to take this. Again, make sure Snipe or Lethal Shot activate instantly. Lethal Shot is your new ability that you get at level 57, which replaces Snipe essentially. It shoots a target for damage and deals an extra 16-20 internal poison damage. We'll talk about that when we come to our rotation later on. Getting it instant, it's one of those things. It is a toss-up of whether it's a damage increase or not. You know, some people say take it, some people say don't take it. It depends on the fight. You know, you can have Imperial Efficiency. It depends if you need suppressing fire or not, if there's ads or anything that need to be dealt with. Fights like Sparky or Malafar the Savage, you tend to benefit from Imperial Efficiency, because you can spread your dots, get your orbital strike out, and then use your suppressing fire to kill the ads, because the ads need to die fairly quickly in those fights. So again, getting that out for a certain fight. Single target, you could argue Snapshot is pretty useful as well. But again, it's up to you whether you want to take it or not. It really doesn't make a huge difference, to be honest. You might think Instant Shot and fights where you have to move a lot can be quite useful. But again, if you just want to get that Lethal Shot is what you're going to be using in this spec. You're not going to be using Snipe in this spec. Lethal Shot is the only real change to it, I think. Yeah, I think that's the only big change. There's nothing really different about this spec. Right, we'll move on to Masterful. When Entrench ends and you leave cover while Entrench, or if you leave cover when Entrench is active, you gain Seek Cover, which increases our movement speed by 50% and gains immunity to movement impairing effects. Pretty useful on certain fights that we have to get out of things fast, and also can be pretty useful for any of those fights that have movement impairing effects. So bear that in mind. Bear that in mind when you're going for that. I like Augmented Shields. Increase the amount absorbed by your shield probe by 30%. Again, very useful if there's heavy sort of spike damage coming out. Very useful if you get the not so huge grenade. It's, again, you can just absorb it. You know, 30% more shield absorption. Just pop your shield probe. You just pop that, and you get the extra 30% damage absorption from that. It's pretty nice. Counter Strike, when countermeasures purges all movement impairing effects. Again, if the boss is going to stun you, a lot of the HM flashpoints, there's a few bosses that do put movement impairing effects. So taking these two does come in handy. These two abilities, they can probably take both of them for those flashpoints. You're thinking about Rakata, Legacy of the Rakata, the first boss, which does do a lot of movement impairing abilities. It stuns you and then puts fire on you, so you want to get out of there as quickly as possible. Stroke of Genius, activating cover pulse makes the next snipe or lethal shot activate instantly. Again, we can say the same for snapshot on this one. It's not necessary to have both, because there's no reason to hit 2 lethal shots. There's no real reason to do that. We want to get into our cull right away. Again, reduce the Pillbox Sniper, reduce the cooldown of Entrench by 15 seconds, and Cover Pulse knocks back the targets an additional 4 meters. Can be quite useful. Entrench is a useful ability, but again, reducing its cooldown is pretty nice. Tends to be between this and Calculated Pursuit. Calculated Pursuit I do like for doing, especially for doing ops where we have to move a lot. Basically, when you exit cover, your overload shot is free of energy costs. We'll exit cover. Our next 4 overload shots, fire one off here. You can see it is not draining our energy. Pretty useful if we have to move. If we can't stand still for periods, then it is pretty useful. There are some certain flashpoint bosses. We're thinking the second boss on Tython, when he goes into that phase of dropping things on you, you can use your overload shot. Basically, you get a choice between overload shot and rifle shot. So overload shot does more damage than rifle shot. So we have to move around. We can just go like this and just fire this off, and it gives us that little bit of mobility. Bear in mind that how often we have to move out of things in 3.0. Then, so it can be useful, very useful. Basically, it usually either replaces cull or speed shot, or series of shots, should I say, whenever we have to move. Alright, we'll get back to that. The other things, cooldown a leg shot is PvP, really. Heroic, reduce all area effect damage taken by 60% while Entrench is active. Very useful on the Underlurker, you have to say. It is very useful on that fight. A lot of AoE damage going out. Get your Entrench out and take 60% less area damage. It's a very useful ability. The other one is Deployed Shields. Reduce all damage taken while in cover by 6% and reduce the cooldown of Ballistic Shield by 30 seconds. Ballistic Shield is, of course, your big defensive cooldown, the big raid-wide defensive cooldown that the snipers bring. Pretty useful. Again, reducing all damage taken while in cover. Again, we're adding to this idea that we want to be in cover for the majority of the time, wherever possible. Whenever we don't have to move, we should always be going back to our cover. Always going back to our cover. Again, we get that 6% damage reduction. Is pretty useful. Increase the duration of Shatter Shot. Tends to be a bit useless, really, because we can refresh Shatter Shot anytime we want. Hold your ground, reduce the cooldown of Escape and Shield Probe by 4 seconds. Cover Pulse by 5 seconds. Again, it can be a little bit useful, but I'll prefer to take these things, because again, your shield reduces area damage. Again, if you're getting single target damage, if it's very specific like Sword Squadron, you maybe wanna drop this and go for this maybe. Again, it's up to you really, essentially, but again, reducing all area damage, because this is a very specific type of damage, whereas this reduces your shield probe, and it goes nicely with augmented shields as well, because it means we can use our augmented shields more often, and we're getting that 30% damage reduction. Bear in mind the cooldowns were increased for things like that. Just the cooldown of Debilitate and Flashbang is a waste of time for PvE. Each shot of series of shots and Penetrating Blast slows the target by 20% for 3 seconds. PvP tends to be Diversion slows all targets by 50% as long as they remain in the area. Limited use in PvE tends to be PvP. You're going to be using that in again, but your main ones for PvE are these three. Hold Your Ground can be useful. Siege Bunker tends to be very nice on certain fights. Deployed Shields is going to be the mandatory one, I would say. Again, getting that damage reduction, 6% damage, less damage taken while in cover, is pretty damn nice. It's a pretty nice little buff. So we'll get to gearing, and we'll talk about our rotation. So gear priority, as always, DPS class, accuracy to cap. Generally speaking, get your accuracy to cap. Your next priority is going to be crit. We want to get 25% crit. We're going to ignore ranged crit because aim affects our ranged crit. That's why our ranged crit is higher than our tech crit. It is tech crit that we're talking about because all of our dots are tech abilities. Every single dot we got is a tech ability. Now, you want to consider alacrity in this spec. For a dot spec, we tend to consider alacrity, but our priority is to get crit chance. As you can see, this character is really so freshly leveled that we still have a major XP booster ticking. We've also still got our reusable stim ticking. Again, we do have I do have the purple skill stims, actually. The new purple skill stims, I should point out. But yeah. So again, it's all about tech in this one. Tech crit, 25% tends to be the goal. Surge is not so important in this spec. We just want our dots to be critting regularly. Because it's a dot spec, because we're doing lots of little hits, so surge is not massively important. Get about maybe 70% surge. But accuracy, then it's going to be crit, and then the rest we're going to put into alacrity. Now alacrity, what alacrity does for the dot spec is it speeds up our dot ticks. It will speed up our dot ticks. There's no gear with alacrity in it from the vendor. From the targeter's gear, so you will be looking at some mender's gear. Targeters is of course the DPS, so get your accuracy to cap. You see we are slightly over. What we can do here is we can drop a piece and we will go with I've got really poor mods in this. This is just a crafting alt, really. We've got 148 augments in there. Yeah, I've got 186. I'm using Assassin's Touch. Should point out it's a cool weapon, Assassin's Touch. We got that from the Chevin event. Finally getting around to using it. Cool looking weapon, quite rare, quite hard to find these days. Looks like a bowcaster, but it is a pretty cool thing. It is a sniper rifle. Is it? Yep, requires a sniper rifle. It is a sniper rifle. Pretty cool actually having this. This was one of the first legacy bound weapons in the game. There you go, and it's in that yellow, that sort of orange, I will call it gold, I think. We'll call it gold. So again, we'll kind of call it gold. That kind of gold, very rare, kind of cool looking weapon. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Right, so we'll get to our rotation again. So again, alacrity just speeds up our dot ticks, which means that we can refresh them quicker. So we'll go to this one because we put a dot on that one. We'll use this dummy. That's only a level 10 dummy. Level 60 dummy. Yeah, we'll use that one. We'll wait for this dot to come off. And again, we get the assailable debuff as well. So you can see the dots ticking off there. Right, there we go. So generally what we want to do is get our dots up, get Weakening Blast off is our strategy, get Corrosive Grenade, and then, where is it? Corrosive Dart. 24 seconds one is. They're both 24 seconds actually. Interesting. So get those two up, then we want to get our Weakening Blast off. Now Weakening Blast has changed a little bit. Our next 10 It's our next 10 seconds. Deals weapon damage if the next 10 seconds causes the target to take additional damage whenever it takes damage from your cull or a poison effect. Keyword here is poison effect. Bear in mind that lethal shot does do poison damage. So what you want to do is get your dots on, get our grenade up, get our corrosive grenade, corrosive dart, put them on whatever order you want, doesn't matter. They're both the same. If you're AoEing, you want corrosive dart first and then corrosive grenade to spread your dots. Because corrosive grenade will spread corrosive dart to all the targets that it hits, assuming that the target is being hit. Assuming that the target that you're hitting has corrosive dart on them, of course. Your weakening blast. Then you want to get. You can either do cull or you can do lethal shot. Don't matter. Doesn't really matter what order you do it in. But it's very important that you get both cull and lethal shot off while weakening blast is active. That's the important thing. And then of course you're into your filler, which is takedown. Then series of shots. And you can use lethal shot as a filler. Should point out as well, Lay's target will make your makes your cull an auto crit in this spec. So ambush, explosive probe, or cull. We don't have ambush or explosive probe, we have cull. So you want to be getting that off. You also want to be getting target acquired. Now when you use target acquired, you're going to use target acquired before lethal shot. So it's target acquired, get your dots up, get your weakening blast, target acquired, lethal shot, Lay's target, cull. It's a lot of buttons in this. There's just a lot of buttons to press. So we don't want to put this up right away because it's only 10 seconds. So we don't want our initial dot ticks to be under the target acquired thing. You could also fire off flourish as shatter shot, should we say. So we'll go shatter shot. We're gonna get both our dots up, get our weakening blast off. We're gonna we gotta get that off first, and then we gotta get lethal shot, then Lay's target, and then cull. And it's a lot of things. Then it's just into this and then back to our rotation. Essentially now all we are doing is waiting for these dots to come off. You can just use lethal shot as a sort of filler until those dots come off. So again, we're just waiting for them to come off, and then we're refreshing them when weakening blast comes off cooldown. You can also use cull, I guess, as a filler as well. Cull if it's off cooldown. We'll just fire that off again. We've got that on cooldown. Get that lethal shot off while it's up. We can't use them because they're on cooldown. Get them off. Well, we clipped it. We didn't mean to clip it there. Get that off again. We go back to our lethal shot. Get down to some culling. Get another one of them off. And we're about ready to refresh because it's got a few seconds left until those dots come off. So it does work out pretty nicely. Using Alacrity will get rid of these dots faster. That's why we want Alacrity in there. We can get the auto crit, but it is every 1 minute. So you don't need massive amounts of surge. Maybe about 65, between 65 and 70. Alacrity tends to be getting those dots ticking a little bit faster. It tends to be better for the rotation in terms of that. Now that was if we don't have to move, but say we get a red circle under us when we're in cover. We should have been in cover there when we did that rotation. Say we get a red circle under us while we're in cover. What we're going to do is when we have to move, we're just going to fire these off and then go back to whatever we're doing. As soon as we can stop, you don't have to fire off all 4 calculated pursuit overload shots. What you want to do is stop as soon as you can and get back to series of shots or cull, because cull is your main source of damage. So you just want to bear in mind you've got 10 seconds to get those 2 off. So 3 seconds plus the however long the channel time. 3 seconds. So 6 seconds should be enough. If you want to increase it, then it can be useful. If you're struggling, then take snapshot. Take snapshots. If you're struggling to get them off, then, but bear in mind if you start out in cover, you've got a limited amount of time to fire off your snapshot. I think it's I can't remember how long it is. It doesn't say on the thing. We'll have to reset and see how long it is we've got to do it. We'll take snapshot from that. Go back to these 2, respec, and see how long it is we've got to fire this off. You can of course use this on the move. Throw them around while you're moving in. Get that off right away. Back to cull. And then we're into a series of shots. So yeah, you can do this rotation while moving. It does make it a bit more mobile to get that off, but it doesn't really make a huge difference to your damage output, to be honest with you. It's not a huge must be a DPS increase. If there's a situation where you have to kill ads fast, again, your strategy on ads, we can't do it here because these dummies are too far apart, but your goal for ads is your AoE rotation tends to be first of all, you're going to want to get your orbital strike, which is kind of useless to be honest. Then you're going to want to get that off. You get your corrosive dart, then your corrosive grenade. You can use your weakening blast as well. Weakening blast on the main target, and then you're going to finish off with suppressive fire as your filler for when you're killing ads. To be fair, most ads you don't really need orbital strike. If ads are going to die really quickly, again, look at how quickly the ads are dying. You know, is the raid DPS good enough? Orbital strike just tends to be a waste of time channeling most of the time, because it's quite good, the spec for AoE, we should say. Corrosive dart, corrosive grenade, and your suppressing fire do a lot of nice AoE damage. A lot of the time I'm finding now is we go up through the gear. I do this mostly on the gunslinger. Should point out that I find that it's a bit of a waste of time channeling orbital strike, because the ads are dead by the time we finish channeling orbital strike, because there's so much damage going out right now. When you're doing the progression alt, well, I do my alt run. When we do the alt run, I do it as a gunslinger. So yeah, that's what I try to avoid. Essentially, is using orbital strike. It is useful. It is useful in a single target situation. You can precast it, but it does so little damage and takes so long to channel that honestly I don't think it's worth it. We should point out certain fights that this spec isn't very good in. Fights like the Underlurker, honestly, this spec is awful. It is so awful. Marksmanship tends to be a hell of a lot better for the Underlurker, and the reason for that is the reason these two targeting dummies, we can't demonstrate the dot rotation. If you imagine these are your two ads on Underlurker, you cannot dot spread, so your rotation really sucks. You have to kill those ads as quickly as possible. Marksmanship tends to offer slightly better. The other one is torque. When you're doing the Wookiee in Ravagers, you do not want to risk your corrosive grenade and corrosive dart spreading to the fix you droids. You do not want to risk that. It is too big a risk, to be honest. Marksmanship, unless you're targeting the droid, the little repair droid, deliberately, you're not going to hit it because there's no AoE in marksmanship. So it tends to be, I think this spec does come out ahead most of the time. It does come out ahead in the majority of the fights, except those two, because of target switching. The Revanite one, the second last boss for the Revanites, tends to be, if you can dot spread in that, so it tends to be fairly I think actually Virulence does come out slightly higher in that, because you can dot spread, because if you get all the ads together you can just dot spread. That fight is a total joke, that second last fight in Temple of Sacrifice. It is just a complete and utter joke, to be honest with you. I think I don't think anyone's ever wiped on that in story mode. Right, so that's pretty much it for this. Don't forget you can use your diversion. It's a pretty useful defensive cooldown as well. Use that, use your ballistic shield. But it's fairly simple. You want to be using Cull. Cull is your main source of damage. Lethal Shot, I honestly don't see the point in Lethal Shot, to be honest. It's just an extra ability to use. You do have 10 seconds of Weakening Blast, so you want to get Lethal Shot and Cull off. But again, it's up to you whether you want to take this or not. It doesn't end up being a damage increase. It can be useful, again, we say, when we have to move, like we have to get out of things quicker. So if you look at this, it is 10 seconds. If you can get your whole rotation off and get that fired off, get your Lethal Shot fired off instantly, then it can work out pretty nicely. Or if you're just walking in to the boss, then you can use that. A lot of buttons in this spec, I don't like it. I mean, there's like a lot of things like target acquired, lays target. I wish they would just be rolled into one thing, you know, maybe just get rid of something would be nice, or put this on with Cull or something like that, make it a passive boost and just reduce it. Something like reduce the armor penetration. I mean, the accuracy by 30% is pointless. I don't know why it has accuracy increased by 30%. to be honest. It must be for PvP, I guess, but I don't get it. I mean, again, it's every 2 minutes, and you get your laze target as your defensive cooldowns. We generally use it with Cull because our dots are ticking, so we don't really care about our dot ticks. We want our Cull mostly. Cull is our main source of damage. Cull and Lethal Shot is the thing. But there's so many buttons to press in this spec. So many buttons, so little time. That's what I don't like about this spec. Sharpshooter, by contrast, is a lot cleaner. I mean, again, it's ambush you're going to use that with. You're going to use target acquired at the beginning, and you're going to use laze target whenever you get the proc on ambush to lower its activation time. But anyway, we've waffled on a lot about the sniper. It's a pretty decent class, actually. Why do those yellow lines only come in when you zoom out? That's a weird bug. Anyway, found a weird bug there. So thank you for joining me for this video, and we'll see you again soon, and goodbye.